Time to add some volume to our lettering composition. We'll follow the same order than before. Unlike Illustrator, Photoshop software allows you to get more natural looking results, although it will limit you in other aspects. As you can appreciate, we've created a new independent layer for the letters, and it's because you are better to have always an older version of each step of the project, just in case you unexpectedly change your mind or spoil any particular part. It happens with more frequency than you can imagine. You can rely on my own experience. Once filled with the black our letters, we may like to create a gradient by using soft brush with white color over it. In order to apply white only in the zone restricted to letters, make a quick selection by pressing Ctrl and at the same time clicking over the layer miniature. Then just work on the selected area. These letters will simulate ribbon behavior, so we should follow its logic. There will be a frontal part which will transform into the rear part by twisting around and creating a loop sensation. So, supposing that there is a light in the left upper corner, the rear parts are about to be covered with shades. Here, when using the brush, the idea is to choose settings like the low opacity and middle hardness. The same idea applies to the eraser tool. By working this way, you will achieve controllable homogeneity of the results. Diffuse shadow in the lower part of each letter works so well simulating volume because it's not only diffuse from the top, but also a little from the bottom. This second gradient simulates some kind of reflected light source below our lettering. One thing I didn't mention before is that we've already switched from white background to the gray one, as it reduces the contrast and allows you to appreciate better all the volumes on canvas. It looks pretty good at the moment. Although I have suggested you one technique to work with, adapt it to your own workflow. Choose a method that suits you best. For example, if you prefer to modulate letters, creating solid white filling, and then working with a black brush over it, it's perfectly okay. So, after finishing with the general lightening, let's place shadows where our letters are overlapping one another. Here, the tone should feel more solid, as it's harder shape. It's akin to when you take an eraser and place it over a white sheet, with a strong lighting lamp over, but slightly on the left of the eraser. To make the sentence look more bulky, the contrast should not be too high. Think about the letter parts as independent shapes while modeling, and follow the light direction. We'll leave Ninja for now, as it's supposed to be much darker than the rest. If you place a much darker tone at the very beginning of the process, you can achieve a softer and larger transition by applying soft eraser over it, as we are not looking to make this phrase too obscure. All in all, besides being sci-fi thriller, Stranger Things' main characters are kids. The shadows of so-called overlapping should be better integrated. Motivated by this reasoning, we can model the shade's gradient by using the same technique as before, meaning the use of the soft eraser. Just to check, try looking on lettering, changing the background to black. The shade of the overlapping sums up to the general shade. As a result, we obtain darker tone and at the same time more complex shadow, which adds corporeality to our artwork. When we work on each letter assuming that it's composed by independent elements, it means that we are able to establish some kind of order, a sort of internal logic behind it. In this case, each right stem inside of the letter goes below the left one, but in the case of the entire letter, each left stem lies below the right stem of the following letter, and so it goes in the whole word. An extra tip. To clean up shapes you are not satisfied with, instead of using an eraser tool, you could use layer masking options. For example, to correct E, I've created an overall folder and placed lettering layers inside of it. Then I've created a mask for the folder itself by pushing this button. Afterwards, one needs just to trace a shape you prefer by using the pen tool, for example, and fill the selected area with black color in the folder's mask. It's incredible. One could not possibly imagine all the chances some plain letters offer in terms of creative visual solutions. Feel free to polish any tiny details when you feel you are over with any particular step of the process. We still did nothing about the bed filled with nails. We'll leave it for the moment. To sum up, this lettering's upper part is about to have a look of a white ribbon twisted around itself, and meanwhile the lower part will hide in the shades as if it were ninja for real. Now, let's switch to the second lettering and work a little on our head. For this part, I'm looking for the more irregular visual solution, a cutting one. By choosing natural-looking brush, I will assure the strokes not to have the same finishing and therefore achieve more distressed look. The stems of hate are slightly curved, and this provides a more organic appearance. The brush I'm using has the dynamic option activated. It's essential to make your pencil obey your hand's pressure over the tablet. As you can see, finally I've chosen a brush which allows creating shapes with so-called speed or spray effect. By using it and a razor simultaneously, we obtain cutting strokes with diffuse tails. I'm sure you appreciate the difference. It feels like we need to play around with the tonality of the red color used in the word hate. You can easily correct it by using hue saturation option, for example. The general colors are now to be modified. Actually, the upper part should be the other way around. White letters with a red stroke inside, as our background will be rather dark. For this matter, you can also use Hue Saturation option by simply pressing U plus Shift. As a result, a new window will pop up. Here you can modify color and tonality of the selected layer. As you can appreciate, this lettering has one layer for the upper part and another separate one for the lower one. Let's also modify hate letter's position to slightly overlap the first part of the sentence. Alright, now we are just missing some gradients. Turning back to the first part, once again, select the lettering shapes and create a new layer, where to put the shade's gradient. We are willing to draw a metal with an old, scratched white varnish above it. To do so, we will place some rounded shades in the left upper corner of each letter form, and then the secondary shade in the lower right corner. This one will be stronger and thinner than the previous one. This lettering follows logic similar to Stranger Things, in terms of the light placement. The final step is to diffuse the light we've drawn, creating gradients on the extremes. We will also polish the eternal red strokes by adding rounded finishing to each form, creating contrast with the more sharp outlined parts. Logically, if we imagine that the letters are made of metal, the surface would behave differently than the surface of a ribbon, meaning that ribbon has more exaggerated 3D effect. The flat metal surface is of another kind. It will behave rather as the cube when you place a lamp over it. For this rounded finishing in the red strokes, we'll switch to the lasso tool, as at this level of detail the precision of this tool will be quite enough. We can seize the lasso in two ways: by adding color inside of the selected area, or by deleting useless information inside of it. You can also take an advantage of the option available, which is called Select Inverse, by pressing right button of your mouse and selecting this option in a menu that pop-ups. Needless to say, it will be much better if the red strokes are placed inside of independent layer. As I told before, if you feel like something is to be modified or adjusted, be brave and change it. This lesson is coming to its end, so let's meet in the lesson 5 and face the details left to be polished.